Ah, you've caught me once again in my natural habitat. And I don't mean the bush here. I mean talking mess about motorcycles. Okay, MT07, brand new, 2025. It's a good bike. I heaped lots of praise on it in my first ride and review. Oh my god, the keys are in my pocket. This is what I get for trying to start shit on an intro. I heaped a lot of praise on it, okay? It's a great motorcycle, but it's not perfect. There are things I don't like about it. I'm going to talk you through some of the tiny details on this bike that I don't like. Let's begin with this dash. I don't know if I'm just turning into some annoying old guy who cares about gizmos and gadgets, but look at this. You go into here, you go into settings, you go into display, brightness. Ooh, I like the black. Actually, I take it all back. This looks better. We're doing this in real time, boys. Hold on. What I want to actually see is the themes. Here we go. Okay, check this out. I don't like the fact that it says theme 1 with no spacing between theme and the number 1, and none of the themes are that great. I've settled on theme 2. That's kind of what I'm going for now. That's the first thing I don't like about the bike. I don't know, the TFT is okay, the dash is okay. It's a nitpicky concern, you'd have to agree, but I gotta come up with something for these videos, right? And that is something I don't like about the bike. The next thing I don't like about the bike, the MT07 here, which, by the way, this is a giveaway bike on yamd.co. Are you crazy? Head over to the website right now and get entered to win the sweepstakes. This is a short one, boys. This one ends on March 28th. You are not going to want to miss the sweepstakes, because once it's gone, baby. We're doing a bike a month. Every month in riding season, we're going to have a new motorcycle. So by the time April rolls around, we got another bike, and you better get ready for it. So if you become a member, you get your chances locked and loaded to win. It's the best chance. If you don't want to do that, you can just pick up a hat, a t-shirt, a hoodie, anything like that. And every dollar you spend will be an entry to win, subject to a multiplier. So as I'm on this road right now, I can show you guys the other thing I don't like is the turn indicators. What the heck was Yamaha thinking making the turn indicator like this? Groundbreaking, one would say. I guess it is groundbreaking. It didn't need to break that ground. This was a completely solved problem that we had in motorcycling in terms of the turn indicators, but now we get self-canceling turn indicators, and we get them in a weird gauge cluster over here. Okay, that's fine, I guess. A bit strange, but we'll roll with it. You know, we'll roll with the Yamaha, no problem. So, strange display, strange turn indicator, not so great. These are nitpicky things, though. The fundamentals of this bike, you gotta know, are very, very good. The next thing I don't really enjoy about this motorcycle is the fact that the automatic version gets cruise control, but the manual version doesn't. What the heck is up with that? And what's weird is if you roll off the throttle and you do the little negative return thing that you'd see on a cruise control bike, it has it. So this is actually equipped with that same spring because they make it for both the models, but for some reason it doesn't come on this machine in the manual version, and I do not understand that at all. It seems like a total no-brainer to have cruise control on both the manual and the automatic version. And while we're at it, talking about transmissions, it is a bit of a gripe of mine that this $8,599 motorcycle that competes with the Trident 660 and the GSX 8R and S, rather, excuse me, the naked version of it, doesn't have a quick shifter up and down. And I don't think Yamaha offers a quick shift option for this bike. So that's definitely a bit of a bummer that you can't get a quick shifter on this machine. But we forgive it because the 689cc CP2 is just so sweet, isn't it? It's just so fun to use. What a great engine. Ooh, listen to the scoops, baby. Another thing I don't particularly love on this machine is the handlebar and overall quote-unquote ergonomic improvements of the bike. I actually thought that the older version of the MT07 had a better handlebar setup. It was a little wider, it was a little flatter. Yamaha tried to get these a little bit further back to the rider, get them in a bit more of a tucked in stance like this. It's more in line with what the MT09 is doing currently. And that's okay because it has to fit in the new product line. It's got to go from, you know, if someone's coming from an MT07 and MT09, they want it to make sense. They don't want it to be super different or super weird. But for my personal preference, I would have much rather preferred a wider, flatter handlebar. I think that would have made the MT07 much better. Another thing I don't particularly love about the MT07 is that It is, I think, a little bit rough around the edges in terms of quality control and just general kind of build. Yamaha has been known for this for quite some time, and we tend to forgive them because their engines are just so good and their bikes are just so fun to ride. But they're not, it's not like they're poorly built. They're not poorly built. Actually, they're incredibly well built because they last forever. But one of the issues, I think, is that it just feels a little sloppy. Like, I was riding this bike around the other day, and the clutch switch right over here, the wire for it actually popped out. And I was like, why the heck did that pop out? This mirror just, like, pops off really freaking easily going this way. You got to tighten it real nice. Some of this just looks a little cheap. If you look at the front of the motorcycle, there's, like, some wires that aren't very clean and clear. Triumph does a better job of this in terms of the Trident 660. It's just packaged a little bit neater and a little bit better. Again, that might not matter to you at all. It doesn't matter that much to me personally, but I think it's important to note that this is a bike that lacks that sort of last 5% in terms of refinement. But Yamaha did focus on the fundamentals on this machine, right? It handles well, it brakes well, it goes well, the engine's bulletproof, and that's really what you want out of a motorcycle, right? Like, I am more than willing to forgive some of the small indiscretions that this bike has if we can actually get it to, you know, perform the way it needs to perform. One thing that was difficult to justify on the MT07 for many years was the continual price increases, because the bike wasn't really changing all that much. It was just getting more and more expensive. And look, I understand supply chains, material cost increase. You know, it's not like Yamaha is just printing money on these, although I think they actually might be, because this 689cc parallel twin has been in production for a long time, unchanged. And so Yamaha's definitely making some money on that. All the R&D costs have been recouped by this point for sure. But I think with the engine, you know, and the price, it was something that for a long time it wasn't really justified. Now that you have better suspension, better handling, some tech features, all that stuff, you know, it's now commanding $400 more than the old MT07 used to cost. It's not that it's a crazy big difference in terms of cost. That's 5% increase roughly on an $8,000 motorcycle. It's not the end of the world, but you know, it's a little, I think we're all searching for the latest and greatest, right? We want bikes that are the most exciting, the most interesting, the most new and cutting edge, particularly from the Japanese. And this bike definitely feels more like a big refresh rather than a total reimagining. But I want to couch on the fact that I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't think it's a bad thing that the MT07's ended up in this position where it's been highly refreshed, because it never really had much wrong with it to begin with, you know? It had a peppy, fun engine, it was playful, it was interesting to ride. So Yamaha did a smart thing and just kept the good stuff the same and just updated the stuff that needed to be updated, and that's it. And it ends up being a pretty exciting motorcycle to ride and to own, and it's pretty good. The other thing that I don't particularly love is the fact that in order to do some wheelies, have some fun with the bike, you got to go in and turn off the stability control every time you ride. There's no way to set up a ride mode that automatically has the stability control turned off, as far as I could understand. I tried to set up the custom map with the stability control turned off at all times, and I was not able to do that. So every time you start the bike, if you want to have some fun with it in terms of doing wheelies, you got to go in the settings, you got to turn off stability control, and it's kind of annoying, to be honest. And it was kind of annoying because the old MT07, you would just simply turn the bike on and immediately you just do wheelies and have fun with it, and it didn't really matter. This bike, because it has that little bit extra layer of technology, you kind of feel it, you kind of sense that difference, and it's just not quite as analog and playful as it used to be. It has now a layer of sophistication that is both good and a little bit bad in my opinion. So the next thing I don't love that much about the MT07, this 2025 model, and again, this is another one of those things where I'm like, I totally get why they had to do this, but it is very quiet. It's very, very quiet. It now meets all the Euro 5 plus emission standards, and that's a lot of noise stuff too, but man, the exhaust is whisper quiet. You can barely hear it. And so that Yamaha had to come up with this induction system so you can actually hear the bike while you're riding it, because otherwise, if it didn't have this induction system, man, this thing would be like a scooter. You could literally not hear it at all. And I'm not the biggest fan of super loud motorcycles, but if I'm on a bike, I want to be able to hear it, definitely. So you guys can hear when I crack on the throttle, you hear the intake sound, but it's whisper quiet when you're rolling around with it. So if you did want to make it a little bit louder, the issue is it doesn't have a slip-on system. It has a fully welded one-piece exhaust, so you'd have to go full system, and then at that point you'd have to really baffle it up and change it and do some things to it. Otherwise it would just be really loud. So that's kind of a gripe of mine too with this bike, is that it's either going to be ridiculously loud with the full pipe or whisper quiet with the stock exhaust. You can't easily do something to make it a little bit louder. You can't just put on a little slip-on exhaust, have some fun with it. You have to massively change the whole exhaust pipe, get an ECU flash to get the AFRs correct. So that's kind of annoying, honestly. But that's something that's happening with a lot of new motorcycles nowadays, and not much in your control at that point. What a great engine. This is one thing that I thought a lot about when I got this bike is, did Yamaha need to did they need to change the design of the engine at all to get more sales? And really the answer is no, they didn't. They didn't need to do it. I think that at some point, because the market is the way that it is, it will necessitate a slight update in terms of displacement, just because people are very monkey brained, and if they don't see the number go up, they're gonna be like, well, it's the same old engine always was, and it kind of sucks. But I mean, Yamaha could pull a Suzuki here and just keep printing the CP2 until the cows come home. You know, there's really nothing necessarily wrong with it. But I think that in the face of the competition that has bigger numbers next to it, GSX 8S, Trident 660 has 3 cylinders instead of 2. Hornet 750, which we don't get here in America, has a larger displacement as well. I think at some point Yamaha is going to have to look at the CP2 and be like, all right, we gotta bore it out, or we gotta increase the stroke, we gotta make the displacement bigger so people shut the hell up. So that's something that this bike might run into at some point. But they just launched this one for 25, and I would say for at least the next 2 to 3 years, the displacement on this bike is not changing on these CP2 platformed motorcycles. R7 10-race 700, the T7 just released a new update as well. I'm thinking the R7 is going to get some sort of update, probably in 26, because at that point, that bike will be 5 years old, and I think people will be expecting some sort of update on that machine. Maybe they finally hot rod the CP2 like I've been saying they should. Maybe make it make closer to 90 to 100 horsepower like the RS660. But yeah, I think depending on how you look at it, you could see the engine being a negative or a positive. I personally think it's a positive because it's going to run forever, it works beautifully, and it just does exactly what it needs to do, man. This is just a fantastic motor. But, I mean, really, I'm grasping at straws to find stuff that's wrong with this bike. People always think that, you know, a new motorcycle, if you don't have a bunch of negative stuff to say about it, you're not being truthful. But dude, new bikes are really freaking good. This bike is legitimately very good. I would wager that anyone could ride it and think that it's a fantastic motorcycle. So yeah, I hope you guys don't think this video is a bit silly for trying to come up with stuff that's bad. A lot of that stuff I legitimately have gripes with. I don't like the turn indicators. I don't love the screen that much. The lack of cruise control, but having it on the automatic is a slap in the face, so I do think it's a bit silly. But overall, it's just a very well executed motorcycle. So boys, I think that's going to wrap up the video for today. Some stuff I don't like on the MT07. Overall, I like basically everything on this bike, man. It's a very fun motorcycle, very nice to ride. And of course, it is a giveaway bike here on Yami Noob. Make sure you get entered. March 28th is the last day you have to get entered to win. This is short sweepstakes. We're doing all of them that way this year, boys. We're going crazy. Yami Noob said all the bikes. We're doing all of them, man. Let's go. So you guys, make sure you head over to the website, become a member, join the thousands of other degenerate squids on there who are trying to win some freaking free motorcycles. Yami Noob's giving away 55 of them. He's got a good thing going here. And thank you so much for checking out today's video. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch y'all on the next one. See you later.
Keep watching Yami Noob.